G'day running friends. Welcome to the first of what I hope will be a series of discussions of my training for 2024. So the whole point of this is to go through my training in a way that lets you see how a non-professional amateur that works full-time, shift work at that, and has a family of 4 fits it all in. So the structure of these is that there's going to be minimal editing, no real fancy effects. I'm just going to go through the nuts and bolts of the training, the why, and hopefully some key takeaway messages that I come up with that I learn through the training. I've got a background in sports science. I've coached endurance sports, but that was quite a while ago. And since then, I've spent over 20 years working as a paramedic. Some say you need some clear goals to get through your training, and I don't quite have that. Beyond that, I'm looking at ultramarathons, and I really want to have consistent, continuous improvement without getting injured, enjoy the process, get a lot of training in, but make it sustainable and not negatively impact my family and other things in my life. Can you achieve all that? Well, time will tell, but I've been running for a long time. I've made plenty of mistakes, but I've got a few things right as well. I've marked the beginning of my 2024 season beginning on Saturday, the 13th of January. And I picked that day it's the day after I returned from a family holiday, which lasted just about 4 weeks. So we travelled to the US, did everything but running. I didn't worry about my fitness, didn't worry too much about what I ate. We just enjoyed things, took a complete mental break. And if I'm honest, I really had 5 weeks with no running. Right, let's look at the training. I love using intervals.icu. It's really good analysis, quite similar to Training Peaks in a lot of ways. It's open source, it's free. They just asked for a donation. Starting on the 13th, I didn't know how I would feel. So on that Saturday, I just went out and took a very, very ridiculously easy run just to get out the cobwebs and remind my body without any stress that, you know what, running is expected pretty soon. And that's nice and slow. 6 minutes 55 average pace for that. Very easy run, just around. Came back feeling a little bit sore, to be honest. Anyway, next day, same idea, just lasted a bit longer. And this time I covered slightly over 8 kilometres and in 56 minutes with an average pace of 6:56. So about the same speed, really slow, nothing to it, just to remind my legs. Ready to go. Monday, the 15th of January. This is where my training truly starts and what I consider my first week or first block of training. Now the structure of this training is typically I'm going to have 7 days on where I do my training, and then I'm going to take 2 days recovery. Now each training week for myself will last 7 days where I train on each of those 7 days, at least that's the plan, and then I'm going to take 2 days off. So I'll consider a 7-day block, the recovery in between, another 7-day block. And I'll typically follow that structure, but there will be variation, mainly dependent on work and other commitments where I might have to shorten that block or even extend things out. But we'll develop that at the time. Today, we're going to discuss that first week of training. So the first 7 days, which turns out to be Monday all the way through to Sunday. Right, so the Monday I ran 8.9 kilometres in about 57 minutes. And that gave me an average pace of 6:22. There's a few hills in there. And it looks like the total climbing was 167 metres in 8.9k, which is a good amount. Heart rate started really low, and as the session progressed, it looks like any time I went uphill, it shot right up. So intervals ICU gave it as zone 2 for the first half, zone 3 for the second half for me, and that's based on a typical 5-zone model. The exact zones won't be accurate anymore because I've had such a break and haven't done any testing, but that's really where it's at. Now, this run, I didn't look at pace, I didn't look at heart rate, I only went out and had a 30-minute timer, head out one way and then come back with that 30 minutes kind of on the way back there, and whatever pace I ran, with the aim that I hit about the same speed on the way out and on the way back, maybe preferably negatively split. The idea of the run was to feel like I was running, but feeling quite comfortable. Next, Tuesday. This run I boosted it out to 90 minutes. And the idea of this run was to run it really easy, try and keep, I guess, the same effort level as I did on the Monday's 60-minute run, flatter course, and on the climbs, if needed, if I felt like it was hard, then maybe do a bit of power hiking or take it extra easy on the uphill, just trying to cover that distance. And cover that, felt all right, but it felt quite difficult or hard over the last couple of kilometres. More so that my quads in particular definitely weren't used to the pounding. They were quite sore by the end of it. More like I was a fair way into an ultra marathon with that deep pounding pain that you get often in the muscles when they're not that conditioned. A few hours later, I hit the weight room, which is where we are now, my garage. I've got a squat rack, got some weights with a barbell and some dumbbells and some stretch cords. The session was pretty simple. 2 sets for each exercise, aiming for 3 reps, maybe 5, taking 3 minutes rest in between. It's a light introduction. And those exercises included squat, bench press, pull up, overhead press, and bicep curls. So next day on Wednesday, originally I had planned another easy 60-minute run. I started that in the afternoon, and I tell you what, my legs weren't feeling it. It was actually an ordeal to try and run, and I found walking actually felt like it was a big effort in itself. So I scrapped the run, let my legs have a bit of extra recovery, and just walked for a bit, and otherwise took that day off. Next day, Thursday, and went back on the program, which was another 90-minute run. My legs were really thanking me for taking that day off before. I went out, mainly flat course, a few little hills in there, and out for 90 minutes, I covered 13.6k. It gave me an average pace of 6:27 per kilometre, and heart rate sat a lot lower. I felt like my body was going, oh, that's right, we're back into training. We think we know what to do now. And no big spikes in heart rate anytime I went up any hills, as they had been on the first couple of days. After that run, I did what I'm calling a prehab session, which is an assortment of exercises which is really geared at correcting any strength issues, making sure I've got the mobility and making sure my joint's feeling good. So it's some various calf raises, some split squats, where I really try to extend the knee joint, working on the calf, and quite a few stretches. The idea is that I don't feel particularly sore from these sessions. It's more about being corrective. All right, that brings us to Friday, which is day number 5. And on this day, it's another 60-minute run. You can probably hear the bird going a bit loud. The dog's just out there and the bird's yelling at her. Right, so where were we? Friday, 60-minute run. I covered 8.9 kilometres, average pace 6:32. On this I had a few hills at the start, nice flat section in the middle, and a few hills at the end. I ran this just nice and comfortable. Notice no big jumps in heart rate. In fact, for the first 3 quarters, the heart rate sat much lower than I expected, and on the final hills it kicked up there. I kept running on those hills, didn't push it particularly hard, but I'm not used to running up hills at the moment. I'm definitely deconditioned. Right, next brings us to Saturday. And Saturday, this is the longer run. So 2 hours of running was on the plan. It looks like I went out for 1 hour, alarm went off, turned around, came back home. I was running for an hour 56, so negative split that. Covered 15.2 kilometres. And on this run, I hit the trails. So quite a few hills. Heart rate sat really low as I made a point of keeping the pace extra easy on this. It was only towards the end, the last part of the hills coming home, maybe the last 25 minutes, that the heart rate really started to climb. So average pace of 7:38 per kilometres. And that's a combination of taking it really easy and hitting some trails where the pace is slower anyway. Now I felt quite good doing this, and what I found leading into Sunday, I woke up with my legs feeling great, feeling like I had so much more energy than I have had in a long time. I definitely didn't feel like I had been last year after any of my long runs, where I was feeling drained, sore, legs stiff. And a big part of that is probably because I took it so easy, but worked at a rate where running was actually comfortable. So on this day, Sunday, final training day of this week, went out for 60 minutes, and I aim to be reasonably flat course, a couple of hills, because where I live, there's always hills. And I knew I was running a little bit faster than all my other runs, so this gave me a total of 10 kilometres for 58 minutes worth of running, which is 5:50 per kilometre. So definitely my fastest run. I knew I was working a little bit harder, but it didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel like I was working at threshold or anything. It just felt good. Then after some food, a few hours break, doing some other stuff, I came back and did a second weight session for the week, which in this one I'd used deadlifts, pull-ups, overhead press, bench press, and bicep curls is the coverage. Again, same structure, but this time I did 3 sets of each exercise, 3 to 5 reps with about 3 to 4 minutes recovery in between. For the rest of the day, I felt quite energised, and I definitely felt like I had more energy at the end of the week than I did over the first few days. Right, let's look at the totals for the week. I like using Final Surge, So finalsearch.com, there's an app there, but if you really want a report where you can define the weeks or define the actual range that you want this report to sit at, go into the website or desktop version, and that way you can go into the classic view and bring it up. So 15th of January 2024 to the 21st of January 2024, activity type run. I've done the report, and for these 7 days I covered a total of 68.94 kilometres, and that's a total of 7 hours 51 of running. And if we add in the strength sessions, I'll just change the activity type up to select, so that will be all of them. View report. So it's got the strength training thrown in. So for these 7 days, it's a total of 9 hours, 43 minutes and 50 seconds of training for the whole week. No hard sessions. Originally I planned on running 7 days in that week, but I did find on day 3 I struggled, so I took that off because my body was screaming it. And what does that mean for next week? Well, next week, after I take my 2 days off, I aim to hit another 7 days. Same structure, but this time hit all 7 sessions. It's about the same effort level, and we'll just see what paces that bring up. What we have to remember, this is just the introduction, like my base period. That's to set me up for training for the rest of the year. I haven't got any particular race set in stone at the moment, but I'll probably be looking at either backyard ultras, 100-mile race, and if I can wrangle the timing right, maybe even a 6-day race further down the track. I'll also throw in maybe some half marathons, some 10Ks and 5Ks, just because it's fun. But it all depends on how my work falls, when my kids' sport goes, and we need to remember, I'm not pro, I'm not elite, I don't earn my money out of this. This is fun, and most of my running is training, so it's the training I need to enjoy. Now, as for videos, I'm going to do this at the end of every training week, so that should be about every 9 days that these should come out. If the week varies in time, I'll put them out as those weeks fall. Now, there's going to be minimal editing in these, it's just the nuts and bolts of how my training worked. But I'm also doing, hopefully every month, I'm going to bring out a bigger video. More editing, more detail on a topic, and the whole point of these videos is, one, hopefully to be a little bit entertaining, bring out some topic in a lot more depth, and satisfy the creativity bug that has always been in me. I like a bit of art, I like a bit of creativity. It takes time to do that, so I think I could sustain that by bringing one of those out each month and do these training updates every about 9 days or so. If there's anything you want to know, have any questions, ask me in the comments. But in the meantime, I've already published this year a why I run. That's a bit more on the creative side. But if you want to see the next video once it comes out, I'll post it up here. But in the meantime, thanks running friends. Keep on running.